Welcome to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken. Shep will talk with some of the smartest thinkers in business to help make you more successful in your professional and personal life. This is Amazing Business Radio with Shep Hyken.
Hello, everybody. It's Shep Hyken here. We're back with another episode of Amazing Business Radio. We are in for a treat today because we have the Chief Customer Experience Officer at Verizon Consumer Group. It is Brian Higgins, and he is going to share, what it takes to take a brand that's so recognized worldwide like Verizon and turn it into a brand that customers love and keep coming back to. Before we get into the interview, a couple of quick announcements. First of all, if you've got a question or a story that you would like to share, I would love to hear it. And if it is a question, please use the hashtag Ask Shep and go on any of the social media channels because I am pretty much everywhere. I'm there at X/Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm everywhere. TikTok. Just send me the story or question. I'd love to hear it. I'll either answer it there in the social channel, on this show, in my newsletter, or on my TV show, which is Be Amazing or Go Home. And you can find episodes on Apple TV, on Amazon Prime, and you just go straight to beamazing.tv and you can binge on all of the episodes. All right, we are in for a treat with this interview. Brian, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Shep. Appreciate you having me.
Well, I am glad you're here. It's not often that we get to talk with high-level executives of some of the most recognized and iconic brands in the world, which Verizon Consumer Group is definitely. We all know what Verizon is and use it with so many different ways. All right. So here's my first question for you. First of all, how long have you been at Verizon?
Yeah, Shep, it's a good question. It's a long time. I'll tell you, it's well north of 20 years. So I've essentially had my entire career here at Verizon. It's been an amazing company, amazing employees, amazing experience. So I've stayed. Simple as that.
Well, I have done a number of Verizon events over the years. I did, I believe, 5 contact centers on the primarily eastern part of the U.S. where I toured the contact centers. By the way, the first time I was up for it, are you ready for this? I was turned down. They said, no, we're going to hire someone else. I go, okay, that's fine. And then they hired me for the second year or the second time around that they were doing this type of thing. And I said, I just want to know, can you tell me, give me some feedback? Why didn't you hire me the last time? I've never had anybody say this to me. Well, we were worried you didn't have hair. What? Truth. I said, I could claim, a disability as being follically impaired, but I'm not going to pull that card. I'm just going to say, I understand. They go, I don't know. It's just like we felt the audience wanted somebody that looked younger. And I go, oh, all right. Anyway, let's talk about your role as the Chief Customer Experience Officer. So this is a big job. Why is it necessary for companies to have somebody in a role like yours?
Yeah, I think, Shep, it's a really good question. So if I take a look at the history of Verizon, and as I mentioned, I've been here for a long time. We obviously have the best network that's out there. That's the brand that we've had for many, many years, continues on today as well. We also have, differentiated value props that are out there. So we try to make sure we've got the best product, which is the network. We've got the best offerings that are in the marketplace, like the price plans of the value props. And really what we did as a company, we came together and said, you know what? The third leg of this needs to be the experience. And we've had teams that are working on customer experience throughout the company for a long time. That's standard practice. But the big change for us was bringing it all into one department. And so for us, that meant, bringing in all the journey analysis, all the design, all the platforms, everything around digital, all into one cohesive group so that we've got an omni view of everything that's transpiring across all of our customers. So that was really the big driver for us.
And so, you're part of Verizon Consumer Group. So let's, how does that differentiate from other Verizon groups?
Yeah, so there's
divisions?
2 primary divisions that you have within Verizon. You've got consumer, which is the majority of, if you think about Verizon in total, the majority of the business that's out there. And then we also have a Verizon Business Group. The consumer group is domestic. The Verizon Business Group is wireless, plus all the international as well. So there's 2 primary divisions that we have, and I'm on the consumer side.
Great. And there's companies out there that say, hey, I want all my people to have Verizon equipment. We want to use Verizon infrastructure, if you will, for broadband, that kind of thing. And so that's the difference. All right. Now, it's important. You mentioned the whole idea of a CX officer. how do I couch this? It used to be that you just had to have a really good product to be competitive, and then maybe
Right.
offered a more competitive price. And I believe today the competitive price thing, if you do it right, price is less relevant. Product wise, there are other providers that do what you do, maybe not as well, okay,
Yeah.
and you've got to make that case to them. But how firmly do you believe that the experience plays in the role of attracting and, most important, keeping customers and eliminating churn?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and honestly, not just me, but the entire company. We believe it's the kind of the new number one priority. I would say, like we've got three. I hate to say we have three number ones, but we kind of do, which is the product, which is the network, and then also the overall pricing of the value prop that's in there that's differentiated. And that's why I'm saying that third leg of the stool, which is really that experience. We think that's critical. And I think, Shep, the important thing, and you touched on, is like obviously Verizon's a very large company, but you think about we've got on the consumer side roughly around 75 million smartphones that are out there, roughly about 9 million home broadband that's out there as well. And then we have about 21 million prepay as well within the value brand. Now, all these different customers that we have interact with us in different ways. So, on the smartphone side for postpay, it's a certain interaction. Prepay is going to be a little different. We have our fiber product, which is known as Fios in the Northeast area. And then we also have a fixed wireless broadband product, a little bit different. But again, all these consumers are consuming each one of these products, and you've got to make sure you're stitching it all together across those product sets. So that's kind of item number one. Item number two is you take a look at our engagements as well. So we have, if I take a look at our digital platforms, there are billions of engagements that come in every single year. These are customers that want to look up their bill or buy devices, et cetera. We've got hundreds of millions of engagements across our stores, hundreds of millions that happen across our customer care organization. And then we have billions of campaigns that go out as well. When you think about like we're sending a bill or maybe an upgrade offer, these are all engagement touch points that are happening across the entire company. So I'm giving you those numbers, and they're large numbers, obviously, because it kind of tells you the complexity of what we're trying to pull together. And that's what really drove us to the conclusion that, hey, we need someone that's really running experience and having a team, more importantly, that's running experience to stitch this all together, because we want to make sure that customers can choose the way that they interact with Verizon, on their terms, and we've got to make it incredibly easy and simple.
All right, great answer. And there's a lot of information there. You're making me wonder who or what departments actually report to the chief CX or chief experience officer. I mean, does marketing report, or do you sit next to a chief marketing officer?
Next to, yeah, it's a good question, Shep. So the way the basic structure is we've got a chief sales officer, we have a chief revenue officer, and then my area is around experience. So those are kind of the three big areas that we have. And we all work in partnership, by the way, because obviously you can't build an experience and you can't have the revenue team and the sales team and the customer care teams all on board. So we work in partnership. And then within my team specifically, we have an organization that focuses on overall customer experience prioritization. So, what are the things that we should work on across the company? All the design that goes into that as well. And then also monitoring just day to day pain points, right? That's so making sure that any kind of small issues that may crop up, because I always say CX is a combination of small things, like small little issues with the experience, and also big initiatives like Gen AI, right? We all talk about that constantly. So, those are combination of things. So, that team runs that. And then we also have experience platforms as well. These are like the employee platforms. So think about your point of sale systems, your customer care systems, building those out to make sure employees have the kind of tools that they need. Because if the employees are not happy, if they don't feel like they've got the policies right, the tools that are right to engage with the customers the way they want, then you're not going to get the experience right. So that's a second large area. And then the third one, which is a little unique, is it's all the digital experiences as well, including sales. And we did that intentionally because, yes, we have the whole digital experience in there, but we also wanted to make sure that part of the overall CX team had some skin in the game in running the business. So all the digital sales sit in there as well to make sure that we're tightly integrated into not just the overall experience, but also some of the core metrics that drive our business. So that kind of makes up the majority of the overall department.
Wow, interesting. And specific priorities as it applies to the customer experience. I know you talked about different departments, but do you have like, this is what we see the top priorities we need to focus on for 2024 and beyond?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do, Shep. It's a great question. So, and I'll just give you the framework that we operate in. There's actually three kind of swim lanes, if you will, that we focus in on. Number one is on pain points. So, just to give you some rough metrics, generally about 75% of the calls that come into our customer care organization are for small cracks in the experience. Whether a promo didn't go through, or there was an issue with a bill, or what have you. So we've got a whole team that analyzes all of those journeys that sit in there and fix those pain points. So basically, you've got metrics that you track, and we try to make progress every single day. And then we read out on that progress to make sure we're headed in the right direction. So that's swim lane number one. Swim lane number two is around digital. As I mentioned, we've got billions of transactions that come through the digital platform. Every company wants to be more digitally enabled. I would argue that has to be organic, right? You got to make sure customers want to go there. And if they want to go there, then we've got to make it seamless for them. So we know that's the biggest opportunity for us. So we've got progress across each one of the initiatives within that digital area. And then the last one I'll mention is going to be on what we call signature experiences. And this is one that's important to us because if you take a look at your membership with Verizon, there are a number of unique capabilities that you only get when you're a subscriber to Verizon. And when we take a look at it, we don't necessarily do a fantastic job in letting the customers know all the value that's available to them, because there are a lot of small products, medium-sized products, things you don't see in a large advertisement that would come across. And so we've got a whole initiative to make sure that we're taking those signature experiences, things that only come because of your membership with Verizon, and making the customers aware that they're available to them, so that they can unlock all the value that they have. And so those are the three swim lanes. And then basically we do, Shep, is we've got a number of reports we run through that take a look at rep interaction scores, digital interaction scores, CSAT, like all the typical things you'd have. And then we just build out progress throughout each one of those items.
Wow. You are giving us a peek behind the curtain. That is how I would describe this. And normally we'd say, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. But in this case, we are paying attention to Brian Higgins. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk about AI. You mentioned that everybody's talking about AI, but with a company like yours, I'm sure AI is playing a huge part of finding the pain points of customers and finding ways to fix them. By the way, one of the things I was very impressed with is that you're just not looking at pain points. It sounded to me that you're constantly, day in and day out, watching that journey and finding ways to mitigate and eliminate pain points that customers are having. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And also, you mentioned the employee experience. I want to dive into that. And I also want to talk about your vocabulary. You use the word member all at the same time. So we will be right back. Don't go away. One of my favorite sayings is that customer service isn't a department. It's a philosophy. And it's a philosophy that must be embraced by everyone in the organization all the time, and that's 24/7. So if customer service is important to you, and I know it is, then you will love our virtual training, the ultimate on-demand customer service and experience training program that you can access anytime, anywhere. Now, the course content applies to everyone, regardless of position and responsibility, from senior executives to the most recently hired and everyone in between. You'll discover tips, ideas, and strategies that won't cost your company a fortune, but will produce what I call moments of magic, those positive experiences, and it will happen at every level of your organization. So go to Customer Service VT. That's V as in virtual, T as in training. That's customerservicevt.com. It's time to get customer focused.
You're listening to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken.
We're back on Amazing Business Radio. We're talking with Brian Higgins, the Chief Customer Experience Officer at Verizon Consumer Group, and we are getting a peek behind the curtain, as I mentioned, as to how an organization as large as Verizon, is well known as Verizon, that absolutely has the stiffest, toughest, biggest competition that you can imagine in the industry. I mean, think about it. There's some major players here. How does Verizon stay on top? Well, this is how they are doing it. You mentioned and you referred to your customers as customers, members, and subscribers. And I know they all fall into one, but if you had a choice, what would you refer to them as?
Yeah, I would refer to them as members.
Yeah. And why?
We look at it as membership, right? That's really what it's about. It's the partnership and the membership that we have together. Like we provide value to the customers. If I think about it, the service we provide is critical. Like if you think about your daily life, Jeff, first thing when you wake up in the morning, you probably grab your phone, you're connected to your internet, before you go to bed, probably the last thing you hold on to and take a look at is going to be your phone. We're constantly with consumers all the way through. Like that's a real membership from my view.
And you missed one important point, and that is that I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and I check my email.
I got you.
So I'm just kidding for those that are really wondering. Most nights I sleep through. All right. Anyway, that's good. Next, I want to talk about, you mentioned the employee experience, and you didn't touch heavily on it, but hey, I believe firmly that what's happening on the inside of an organization is felt on the outside, and therefore the employee experience actually really does drive the customer experience, at least from the standpoint of the interaction that your members or customers have with actual Verizon employees.
Yeah, I did. So, Shep, I would break it into two areas, the two main ones that we focus in on. One is going to be around policies, right? Are you creating policies that are customer friendly and employee friendly? Like, are you empowering the employees whenever there's a breakdown in any kind of an experience that they can go in and fix it quickly and correctly for the members and customers that are out there? Like, that's item number one. Item number two is making sure that you get the right tools to the customer, the employees as well, so that they can engage with the customers. And so those are the two main areas that we focus in on. You'd be surprised, like there's quite a bit that you can do in the policy area. Like when you're at a large company that's been around for many, many decades, there are policies that have been out there from employees that have, long since gone on to other organizations. And you have to dig through those and decide, like, is that relevant in today's world or not? And most of the times you find it's not. We just haven't looked at it. And so we're going to make a quick change, and that improves the overall experience. And then on the system side, this is where we get into a lot of the work for AI and Gen AI. This is simply about taking what's a fairly complicated business and simplifying it down so that each one of the reps have exactly the tools and the information they need to help out that customer right then and there.
So much to digest, and it's like you've done this speech before. I'm very impressed. All right. We're going to move into the topic that is, seems to be in almost every conversation I have, and that is the topic of AI. If I were to play word association and simply said AI, what comes to your mind?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, when I think about AI, I think that it's everywhere. It's kind of like the force, it's everywhere. It's everything. Like it's involved in all aspects of our business. And it is, quite honestly. We've been on the journey for quite some time. I'll call it down the predictive AI path. Think about if you do like personalized offers, making sure that we're getting relevant offers to customers. We've been on that journey for some time. And then the new path that all the companies are really on is on the generative AI side. And this one's really interesting, especially from an employee standpoint, because it's about taking, again, that dense information of a business that's been in place for many, many decades and simplifying it down. Like I'll give you one simple example, Shep. Now, most companies have knowledge-based articles that are out there about any kind of policy, capability, whatever it may be. And when you have employees engaging with customers, they've got to dig through, find those articles. In today's world, it's mainly like, I'm going to do a keyword search. I'm going to try and find it. If I find it, fantastic. If I don't, do another keyword search. Rather than doing that, what we're building is the ability to go in and basically analyze what's happening with the customer and the call that's transpiring, and then popping up relevant information in real time to make sure that the relevant information that that employee needs is right at their fingertips, right? So rather than them spending time trying to search for information, we're going to pre-populate that information for them so that that employee can spend time engaging with the customer emotionally, right? Which is really what you want to see. And that's how customers want to engage, and get them the information right away. So it's about lowering the cognitive load. Like that's how we think about this for the employees. We want to make sure the cognitive load is as low as possibly can be. That way they can engage directly with the customer.
When I talked about this 10 years ago, I was at a conference. IBM had Watson, was rolling it out big. And by the way, it cost millions and millions of dollars to do what you're talking about today, which now is fairly inexpensive. But everybody said, that's impossible, can't be done. But just to rephrase, the computer, the AI is listening to a conversation and feeding information to the employee in real time that the employee can interpret and then share with the customer in an empathetic or energetic or enthusiastic or as detailed or as simplified as this employee feels the customer can handle. So it really allows the human experience to become better by augmenting it with AI.
100%. Yeah, we actually call it human applied AI. That's the way we look at it.
Oh, there you
it's
go.
not about AI taking over. It's about humans and AI coming together to provide a better experience.
Do you feel that AI is going to replace or eliminate jobs, or is there another theory that you have behind that?
No, I mean, again, we look at it as augmentation, right? So the employees here at Verizon, we believe they're the best on the planet, and we want to make sure we're getting them the right tools. And so the way we're looking at it is that we're taking all the AI capabilities and augmenting it into the humans that are engaging directly with the customers today, just to provide a superior experience. So that's the way we look at it.
Of the people we've interviewed, executives, leaders, and I did some work with Gartner last year, mentioned this before, less than 10% are actually decreasing the workforce that they have. They think it's because of AI. My theory is they're just a lousy company and haven't figured it out yet.
You may be right about that. Yeah.
All right. We're down to the very end. I have one final question. You know it's coming, and that is simply this. Is there one last nugget of information, and you have shared quite a bit with us today, that you'd like to share with us before we leave?
Yeah, the thing I'd probably say, Shep, is that if I take a look at everything we're doing within Verizon, and this applies for any company that's working on these CX journeys, from our view, it's really about amplifying the power of the one interaction. And I say that specifically because you'd be amazed that, getting that one interaction with a customer right versus getting it, less than right can have a huge impact on the brand, huge impact on NPS, which we talk about often, which is really the brand love. And so when we think about that, we get down to that granular level. We say, like, what is that one interaction? How do we make sure we have the most positive impact possible in that one interaction? And make sure that you recognize that that interaction may only be the one that that customer is going to have with you over the next 3 years. So treat it that way. Treat it like it's a relative coming in, for that one holiday, and you're going to treat them especially well and making sure that they're handling things the way you would expect. So we think about the power of that one interaction as like the key moment, and making sure every employee treats it exactly that way.
I love it. That is a perfect way to end. Thank you very much. This is why we call it Amazing Business Radio. Well, that wraps it up. Another episode of Amazing Business Radio. Thank you, Brian Higgins, for an amazing interview. We will be back next week, and I promise you we'll have a wonderful guest. I hope you come back. And until that time, this is Shep Hyken reminding you to always be amazing.